Let me now make you a bit more familiar with list data types by showing you what you can do with them. And you know that already, that what you can do with them you can check with dir list. You can ignore the attributes that start with double underscore and ends with double underscore. They are basically attributes used by Python internally, and rarely you're going to have to use them. So for now you can just ignore them and focus on what you're going to actually use, which is this set in here. Let me open another Python shell, and I'm going to apply some operations to that list in this Python shell, so we can see what methods we can apply in this window, and we can apply the methods in this other one here. And I don't just want you to show you what this does in the dark, I want to show you the way you can find out yourself what these things do. So always use the help function. List, let's try the append method. Now I'm going to type the variable, but you don't have to type all of it. Once you have started to type that variable name, you can use tab, and that will autocomplete the variable name. And then use the dot notation and append, and then two parentheses. So inside the parentheses, you'll see that this takes two arguments. Actually, it's only one argument. It's only the object itself. Self is referring to the list itself, and object is actually what you want to append to that list. Let's say you want to append 8.1 like that. If you check Monday temperatures, you'll see that it now has one more item. So that is the syntax of append. You always ignore self, because self is automatically passed as an argument to that method, and self is basically the actual list itself. Let's try another method. Q here to quit. Help list clear. How does it work? Well, in this case you see that it doesn't get any arguments. So Monday temperatures.clear, just like that. And what it does, it just clears the list. It deletes all of its items. Let me also try index and leave the rest for you to try. So index gets actually a value, a start, and a stop. And it returns the index of the value. So what is an index? Let's try it out. Dot index the value. With value, what Python means is one of the values of the list. Now, since we have a list without values, I'm going to recreate the list again, like that. So now this is our list. And let me try index with parentheses and the value, let's say 8.8. That will return 1. Why? That's because lists have indexing on the background. Even though we don't see it, each of these items is associated with an index. The first one has an index of 0, the second has an index of 1, and the last has an index of 2, in this case, and so on. Now, in this particular case, we also see this argument and this other one for the index method. However, if you don't want to pass those values, you can just pass one value. So like I did here, 8.8, that means 8.8 would be the value, this. And by default, start will be equal to 0, and stop will be equal to this value. So what is start and stop? Well, when it's 0, like it is by default, that means you are looking for 8.8 starting from the first item of the list. So the interpreter will start the search from the first item, so the item with index 0, and will look for 8.8. and it will find it and it will tell you that it has an index of 1. However, if you want to tell Python to start from the item with index 2, let's say, so to start a search from here and forward, so to the right of 7.5, which happens to not have any more items, but anyway, so you are skipping this part of the list. In that case, the interpreter will tell you that 8.8 is not in the list with that start. And you also have the stop, which is by default this big number. So if you want to limit the search on index on the right, you can do that too. But by default, you're going to keep that 0. And that will tell you that the number has that index. More about indexing in the next video.